Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali. So obviously needs to obviously thoughts with the family on losing someone close to them, because that actually matters more than this whole big razzmatazz of everything. Is actually the family who have lost their father, husband, uncle, friend, close friend, and so forth. So definitely thoughts with them. But obviously, with doing this whole thing, Muhammad Ali, I think the first thing is that, I think anybody who's even mentions the name Cassius Clay is actually doing a disservice to what Muhammad Ali was about. The name Cassius Clay must not ever be mentioned with him. That name doesn't exist. The only name that exists is Muhammad Ali because of what he was about and what he stood for. I think the key thing about Muhammad Ali is that he has achieved immortality. It's what we all seek to achieve in life. Everybody seeks to achieve it, and 99.99% of people fail at achieving immortality. They die and nobody really remembers that. As in, the world at large do not remember 99.99% of people who have died. So, thinking about this whole Muhammad Ali thing is that, this was a guy who, he transcended his sport. Boxing-wise, he was a great boxer. As in, you look at the style in which he boxed with, the bravado where he brought his arrogance into the ring, predicting rounds that people would fall into. With regards to WWF, and it's not the WWE, it's the WWF, with Macho Man, Jake the Snake, The Rock, Stone Cold. Those promos they did of them preaching and all that stuff was gotten from Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was the first person to invent the thesis, the theorem of doing promos, cutting promos. He originated it. And all those guys you see, like Jake the Snake, Big Boss Man, The Rock, Stone Cold, John Cena, Randy, all these other guys, they copied him. They, well, not really copied, but they were inspired by him. But I think the key thing of Muhammad Ali is, and what made him great, was that, it's not just what he did as a boxer, it's what he did beyond boxing. Vietnam. They asked him to get drafted in to fight a damn war. A war in which, who are we fighting? Why are we fighting? So we are fighting to stop the apparent spread of communism. What have these guys done? This isn't like World War II where Hitler wants to take over the damn world. It's like, so we're fighting these guys because Russia may spread communism and there's some kind of weird political stuff. We'll just say yes. And you want me to fight this war where there's actually a war going on right on the soil that I'm standing on. So blacks don't have any rights. Blacks have been put down, but you still want to use us to fight your war. The cheek, the audacity, and by Muhammad Ali giving up his belt, being an enemy of the state, being hated, being called a traitor to his country, he fought for his belief. And in the short term, because remember, we cannot say, what a brave guy Muhammad Ali was for doing that. In the short term, when he did that, that was serious. He was hated. So he was on an island. Obviously, people supported him, but he was on an island when he did that. But I think, just moving on is that, go on YouTube. That's the beauty of YouTube. Go and look at this guy's interviews, because I was watching his interviews before his death, because I'm not really a fan of not only appreciating people when they die. I remember I said, my gosh, I'm so happy to still be living in a world where Michael Jackson still exists. And months before, I watched this Muhammad Ali interview where he did, I think he was in Newcastle, somewhere in London, a really long interview. He was answering many different questions from people. I mean, just look at his personality. It's the guy. So even when you look at him, even if he didn't do any boxing, just look at his personality, what he's saying, the science and the knowledge he is dropping. It's like there are not many people like him, because for me, the word great, it gets thrown around far too easily. Far too easily. But there are very few people who you could say, no, these people were great, in a sense. As when you look at Michael Jackson, this guy is the greatest musical entertainer of all time. Whitney Houston, maybe one of the greatest pure natural singers of all time. Prince, one of the greatest, most talented musicians of all time. And when you think of Muhammad Ali, He's one of the greatest people of all time. So that's the thing. Not one of the greatest boxers. Just as many things, he's one of the greatest people of all time of just what he did. And because the key thing is the bridge. Because he bridged his popularity of boxing and of a boxer with politics and activism at a time in which was one of the most crucial racial time in American history, during the 60s and the civil rights, during the days of your boy Malcolm X. Your main man, the king, Malcolm X, one of my personal heroes, Malcolm X. No, not your boy, the king, your king, Malcolm X. And of course, Martin Luther King, two titans, and him fighting those civil rights with those two leaders there. And he was a great man. And I think even for guys like us who we didn't grow up in the 50s and the 60s and seeing Muhammad Ali in his prime, is the residuals. So guys even younger than me, they would just look at YouTube. They would listen to stories, because even people who are 14, 13 years old, because I was even looking at clips of the memorial at Louisville, Kentucky, and the guys were like 12, 15, 16 who were there. And because in their mind thinking like, okay, why are mom and dad, why is this affecting them so much? Then they'll ask them, then the mom and dad will tell them of the stories of this guy, saying, no, this just wasn't any other guy. Hence why I said that most very likely I won't achieve it. I hope I do achieve immortality, where like when I die, people will remember me. But it's most likely I won't. So I'll die and people will be like, yeah, all right, let's move on. Muhammad Ali, you achieved something that 99.9% of people don't achieve. You think of Malcolm X, you think of Gandhi. Say what you will about what he did in his life. He was Michael Jackson. Prince, as in people who 50 years time, 100 years time, people will talk about them. In 50, 100 years time, people say, man, Muhammad Ali, what this guy did, what this guy was, who this guy was, how this guy affected people. And like, you speak to almost anybody, especially not the kid, he speaks of people who grew up at that time in the 60s of what he meant. And it gets passed on down. And that's the beauty of YouTube, that's the beauty of videos. Even if you're a 12-year-old and you watch any of his interviews, you're like, he's not like anyone else. His charm, his personality, his knowledge, his wisdom, his philosophy, his aura, people like that come around once in a lifetime, where this guy can affect any human being in a positive way. That's rare. That is rare. So for Muhammad Ali, man, yes, he's dead. He does not exist anymore in the physical form. But I think what he's now done is even greater, is that you've become immortal. For as long as this rock keeps spinning, you are in the fiber of humanity, And even for me, as a black guy, continually fighting racism and everything, just looking at what you did at that time, what you fought for, it inspires me, man. It inspires me, and even if you're not black, even if you're not an ethnic minority, seeing how a guy can rise above mediocrity is an amazing thing, And yeah, so for Muhammad Ali, man, we salute you. You have become immortal.